The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Wednesday, June 25th. I hope everybody's having a fantastic week. We're in the middle of the week. I've got Ocon next week. Looking forward to that. Hopefully, I'll see many of you there. I know some of you are practicing day and night at poker to try to beat me, and I look forward to you trying. All right. It is amazing how when there's war and geopolitical crisis out there in the world, the Yaron Brook Show becomes such a hub for people. I mean, my viewership goes through the roof when Ukraine war starts, October 7th, Iran, Israel, through the roof, and then comes down afterwards. But I appreciate that. People come to hear a voice of reason and rationality. I think during these times of great uncertainty, and they come and hear it live. They hear it in podcast form. They hear it. They watch the video afterwards, and I appreciate all of that. So thank you for all of you who come and get your geopolitics from the Yaron Brook Show. All right, today we are going to talk about socialism. We're going to talk about. We'll talk about. Really, assessment of the Israeli-Iran war as it is now in a ceasefire. Although Trump did say today that it might start up again, so who knows? After yesterday, where he said it was for a long, forever maybe, the ceasefire. So, Trump changing his mind. What a thought. How bizarre is that? And we're talking about Trump. We'll talk about Trump being in NATO. Really interesting in NATO, that he's in NATO. And we'll see what else. We'll see what else comes up. But let's start with the election yesterday in New York City. It was the primary. It wasn't an actual election, just a primary. The actual election is in November. So we've got a long time. It's just June now. We've got a long time until the election actually happens. So don't get too depressed. We will see. Obviously, the front runner right now is the socialist candidate who represents the Democratic Party that almost always wins in New York, but not always. Remember Giuliani, remember Bloomberg ran as an independent or Republican, but he won. So don't get too depressed. Mamdani is not guaranteed to be the mayor of New York, although he's highly likely to be. But he's going to run. He's going to face 4 other candidates, which is a problem, probably, because the opposition to him will be split. But maybe they won't all be on the ballot. We'll see. Maybe some of them will drop off just to defeat him, just to try to defeat him. He did not get over 50% of the vote. He got 42%, I think. So he didn't get over 50% of the vote, and he is likely to face both. Right now, as of now, Eric Adams, the current mayor of New York, will probably run again as an independent this time. There will be a Republican candidate and some other candidates, and then there's a good chance Cuomo will run as an independent as well. Now, hopefully, people can convince Cuomo not to run, so that Adams gets all the votes. So if Cuomo runs, convince Adams not to run, and that the opposition, and maybe convince the Republican not to run, so that all the opposition is in one guy. In contrast to Mamdani. But we will see. That's kind of strategic thinking that our politics is really very good at, particularly on the right. So we'll see if that actually happens. But it's not a done deal, is my point. And Mamdani now has 5 months to, or 4.5 months, to say really dumb things and to convince people actually not to vote for him. convince people actually not to vote for him or to vote for something else. So we will see. But I think the bigger question, I mean, there are two questions that are important here that I think we need to address. One is, what is the Democratic Party going to do if this is what its Democratic base wants? How is it gonna be able to be a effective opposition party to MAGA and to Donald Trump if they are embracing the far left? That is, the far left we know on a national basis and on a state probably wide level basis is a disaster. It cannot win. It will not win, right? So, but this is what the grassroots, just like in the Republican Party, the grassroots want MAGA, the grassroots in the left want socialism, and we're going to hopefully not, but we might be stuck with constant elections where we have to choose between a crazy, nutty right-winger and a crazy, nutty left-winger. So, the Democratic Party is going to have to figure this out. I think a lot of Democrats are pretty depressed right now. I mean, Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard, a very much a centrist Democrat, an economist, has said, he said, he wrote today, "I'm profoundly alarmed by at the future of the DNC and the country by yesterday's New York City anointment of a candidate who failed to disavow a globalized intifada slogan and advocated Trotskyite economic policies. I fear it is evidence that our party is following the same problematic aspects of the British Labour Party. It didn't work there, and it won't work here." And then he goes on, at Harvard, he was a big critic of the Harvard administration for tolerating the pro-Hamas demonstrations. He says that Harvard and other universities' moral weakness after October 7th in condoning hateful anti-Israeli and even anti-Semitic rhetoric and activity opened the Overton window in ways that contributed to yesterday's outcome. Yes, they normalized, globalized the Intifada, normalized anti-Semitism, normalized hatred of Israel. He goes on, I hope candidate Mamdani, who showed great ability to learn and adapt during his campaign, will continue to evolve in ways that provide much-needed reassurance to people committed to a free from prejudice market economy as an American ideal. An important task for Mamdani now is to provide reassurance that his moral energy and formidable political skills can be productively directed for the city of New York at this difficult moment. So, yeah, I mean, Summers is panicking, and I think the Democratic Party overall is panicking. Where does the Democratic Party go? And where does America go if this is what the youth of America is demanding? It is interesting that Larry Summers points to Mamdani's moral energy. I like that, and I think that's absolutely right. And this is the next topic I want to talk about is why socialism, why people are so attracted to socialism. What is it about this that is so attractive? Why did he win? I want to talk about that. But, before that, let me just see. So I wanted to, that is that. That's not interesting. That's uninteresting. I thought I saved a bunch of these things and they've all disappeared on me. That's fine. The MAGA right was very quick to assign blame here, very quick. They immediately put out tweets that were the equivalent of, well, I thought I had the tweet saved, but I guess I didn't save it. Basically, the tweet said, well, what do you expect? New York City, which used to be an American city, is now majority foreign born. And the fact that it's majority foreign born, yeah, they would elect a socialist. This is all a consequence of our lax immigration policies. This is all a consequence of immigration. Too many foreigners. And foreigners are driving this country towards socialism. Now, of course, what's fascinating about that statement is that New York City, for most of the last 170 years or so, has been majority foreigner born. Now, there was a period between 1930 and 1970 something where it was majority American born. And those are some of the worst years of New York City, particularly if you go in the 60s and 70s. It's when New York City was being destroyed. And that's all by American-born people. But New York City was always a city of immigrants. It was always, this is where Ellis Island was. This is where people landed. You can identify New York City neighborhoods and boroughs based on which immigrant group settled where. But this is the knee-jerk reaction of the right. The racist, xenophobic, MAGA right. It's the immigrants' fault. They must have done it. Now, of course, this goes completely against the actual data. The data shows that the people who voted for Mamdani are overwhelmingly white and educated. Now, an Asian and educated, maybe some of those Asians are immigrants, I don't know. Or maybe they're second or third generation Asians. But the key is educated, not foreign born. And whites, a majority of whites voted for Mamdani, and a majority of Asians voted for Mamdani. Minority of Hispanics, so those immigrants didn't vote for Mamdani, they voted for Cuomo. A majority of blacks voted for Cuomo. Those are, I guess, America-born, they're considered. So, I mean, they're just lying. They're just making stuff up. And it's disgusting. This is the other. This is the source of anti-Semitism. This is the sort of hatred. There's a phenomenon that's bad. Blame it on the other. Let's go after the other. Those immigrants, they did it. Our economy is doing badly because of immigrants or because of the Chinese who stole our jobs. As long as it's the other, right? We get into wars and we lose wars because of, well, the Jews. They control Donald Trump and control the Republican Party, and they have them by the balls. And that's why we get into wars. And of course, Wall Street, financial crisis, Jews, bankers, bankers, Jews, same thing. It's all their fault. It's the other. And again, I've said this since 2016 when Trump was first elected, or when he ran his campaign. You can't say it's the Jews' fault. So you blame, but you still need an other. You still need an other. So that other becomes immigrants, Chinese, foreigners, generally, fill in the blank. It's disgusting. It's despicable. This is MAGA. This is why I think MAGA is a horrible, disgusting movement. And it matches up well with the crazy, other, horrible, disgusting movement on the left. But they are great, they go great together. They're both horrific, racist, disgusting movements. Now, the more interesting question, I think, and this is a question over the years we've discussed many times, but it's an important question, and given Mamdani's explicit ideology, I think we should consider it. What is the appeal of socialism? Why are young people so attracted to socialism? And, I want to read you Peter Thiel's answer to this, because this is interesting, because Peter Thiel answered this in 2020. Supposedly this is an email that he was writing to Mark Zuckerberg and some other people. Sheryl Sandberg, also at Facebook, and Mark Andreessen were on this email, at least, and for some reason it's public. I don't know why. and Nick Clegg and Antonio Lucio, I don't know who those guys are, but Mark Zuckerberg, you know, Mark Andreessen, you know, and the question is, why are millennials so left? Why are they so socialist? What is going on? I wanted to give you Peter Thiel's answer, and then I'll give you my answer. And he says there are many themes that could be developed more here. Let me make a few quick points for now. Nick, I certainly would not suggest that our policy should be to embrace millennial attitudes unreflectively. I would be the last person to advocate for socialism. But when 70% of millennials say they're pro-socialist, we need to do better than simply dismiss them by saying that they're stupid, entitled, or brainwashed. We should try and understand why. And from the perspective of a broken generational compact, this seems to be a pretty straightforward answer to me. Namely, that when one has too much student debt, or if housing is too unaffordable, then one will have negative capital for a long time and will find it very hard to start accumulating capital in the form of real estate. And if one has no stake in the capitalist system, then one may turn against it. So, you know, this is a purely materialistic explanation, an explanation focused entirely on the economic status of young people, which, by the way, to a large extent, as I've said many times on the show, is just untrue. If you look at the data pretty much supports the fact that on many, many respects, including net wealth, this generation is as rich, actually richer, for their age than any generation before them. But they are convinced, and the media and everybody else has indeed convinced them that they are not, that they are struggling, that they are poor. But why turn to socialism? Why not identify the real culprits? It's not really hard. I mean, even among the left, there is a whole abundance literature that shows that the real cost of housing is a consequence of lack of supply. So what is going on here? And while I agree with Peter Thiel, we shouldn't dismiss this as they have been brainwashed, we should really consider what they've been studying in school. I mean school here, not just what this generation have studied from school at the universities and in, right now, but what have they studied in school since they were little kids, since they were going to pre-K? What has been the message schools convey to young people today about the world, about social political issues, even if they don't address them directly? And certainly, as we saw, Larry Summers recognizes that what Mamdani has is moral energy. What have they learned in their schools about morality? Well, what are they taught when they're little in pre-K, first through third grade? Well, they're taught constantly that man is a destructive force, destroying nature. Nature's beautiful, nature's innocent, nature's amazing, and we human beings are killing the penguins. That capitalism, which is all around them, they are told, is really, really, really horrible and destructive and exploitative. And those little furry, cute animals that young kids love, they're all going to die because of, basically, it's not put in these words necessarily, because of capitalism. They're taught that industrialization is dirty and wrong and bad, with no context, with no idea of how life was before the Industrial Revolution. I mean, what do we teach about the Industrial Revolution in school? This is probably more high school. All the negatives: child labor, pollution, poverty. Capitalism created poverty. Did you not know? So really, from pre-K until high school and well into college, unless they go to particular good colleges, which is rare, they are taught the evils of capitalism almost systematically, constantly, without any stoppage. There just isn't. In every context in which history or or some kind of sociology or whatever they want to call it, they are taught the evils of capitalism. And environmentalism is religion to them. They know nothing else but. And what causes environmental problems? Capitalism. They are also, of course, taught that capitalism is going to destroy, or we're all going to die. Global climate change or pollution or whatever you want to define it, we're all going to die. And if we don't die, the penguins, those cute penguins, they're definitely going to die. I had to go to one of my kids' schools and tell them, you cannot teach this anymore. This is unfair, not objective, untrue. And, and they actually stopped being as explicit as they had been before, because I made us think about it. They were teaching the kids about climate change and penguins dying. And I was like, none of that is scientific. None of that is true. You're indoctrinating them with an ideology, and that's not your job. And to their credit, they accepted at least part of that. And you, as parents, should be active, and you should complain to the school. Even if they'll think you're nuts, it doesn't matter. You need to be active. So they've been not brainwashed, but they have been indoctrinated with an ideology that capitalism is bad. And of course, behind all that is a morality of altruism, a morality of sacrifice, a morality of other people matter, you don't. Your life doesn't matter. A morality of caring and sharing, which they get from their parents, and they get from their teachers, and they get from their preachers, and they get from everybody. If you really want to be good, you have to just care about other people. That's what morality means. And you need to be willing to sacrifice for them. So Mamdani is just the candidate of altruism. He's just a candidate of caring and sharing. He wants lower prices, and he wants the homeless to have a roof atop their head. So he's going to put them all in the subway system. You're just using the subway to get to your greedy job to try to make money for yourself. Think about all those homeless people. So it's going to stink the subway. So you'll have to suffer a little bit of smell in order to get to work. Big deal. Grow a spine, sacrifice a little bit for your moral ideal, for your explicit moral ideas. Socialism is the political manifestation of man-hatred and altruism. Man-hatred, we're destroying the planet, we're greedy, we're selfish, we're bad. Altruism, got to take care of the poor, got to take care of those who are there. And anything self-interested is bad. And of course, some people identifying this is all the consequence of envy. But where does that envy come from? America never used to be a land of envy. It used to be a land of ambition. Yeah, he's rich. I want to be rich like him. But we've embraced envy because that's what altruism demands. How do you get rich? By being self-interested. What do we know about self-interest? It's morally corrupt. So how do you get rich? By being morally corrupt. So yeah, I hate those guys. They're morally corrupt. And I want to tax the hell out of them. So envy is not the source. Envy is the consequence of altruism. The consequence of a decrepit, corrupt, evil moral system. And it's that ideology, that morality, that ethics that makes socialism palatable. It is that morality, that ethics, which, by the way, is basically Christian, which makes socialism popular. I mean, the first, it's all over our culture. It's everywhere. And, MAGA, if you look at discussions over the big, beautiful bill, it's amazing how MAGA wants to redistribute wealth and, it focused on supposedly helping the poor and all this stuff. The exact same altruism on the right and on the left lead to exact same solution. Take from some, give to others, redistribute wealth, sacrifice, demand sacrifice for the sake of some higher purpose. So, socialism just doesn't come out of nowhere. Larry Summers can be surprised by it, but people don't vote economics. They don't vote pocketbook. They don't vote taxes, their own taxes. People vote morality. And when somebody like Mamdani, who's articulate and smart and passionate and hardworking and cool, goes out there and advocates and hooks into the moral issue, then it shouldn't surprise anybody that he's going to win. He believes everything that everybody else believes. He's just more principled. You want to be an altruist? Okay. Well, let's put the homeless in the subway system. House them there. You want to be an altruist? Well, then, obviously Israel's bad because they're strong and the Palestinians are good. So let's globalize the Intifada and go after all those people who are strong. You want to be an altruist? Well, certainly we need to defund the police because the police don't act altruistically. They're trying to protect property rights. Property rights are a greedy, selfish thing. They're not consistent with altruism. And you can go on and on and on and on, right? This is the consequence of altruism. This is the consequence of altruism. Of a deep moral code that has been with us for 2,000 years, since a crucifixion was elevated to moral status, to the epitome of morality. This is the moral code that we have lived with for 2,000 years, and we try to battle against it and fight against it. And the Enlightenment did an amazing job at starting, at creating a crack in it, at pursuit of happiness. But only Ayn Rand gave us the ultimate answer in the pursuit of rational self-interest, in the pursuit of real happiness, in the pursuit of our own well-being in an egoistic moral code. Short of that, there's no way to combat socialism. It keeps coming back. And people saying, I've seen people tweet, this is good because now people will see what socialism does and they'll never vote for a socialist again. That's the funniest argument I've ever heard. Socialism be tried over and over and over again, arguably for at least 2,000 years. And every time it's tried, it fails. Every time it's tried, it's a disaster. And that has not stopped people from thinking. It is a moral ideal. It has not stopped people from thinking. This is amazing. And we want it and voting again for it. And when whatever Mamdani does fails, they'll say, well, it wasn't real socialism. Or the powers to be, Wall Street, fought against it and didn't let him implement the real things he wanted to do. He tried to get those grocery stores opened, and they wouldn't let him. They stopped him. That blames somebody, but never altruism, never the morality, never socialism itself. Because socialism is a moral ideal. It's a political system manifesting a moral ideal. And unless you're willing to give up on the moral ideal, you will not give up on socialism. That's why it keeps coming back. It never goes away. Because it's that moral ideal that needs to be crushed, decimated, destroyed. What we need is a war on altruism. If I believed you could have a war on concepts, that's what we need, a war on altruism. All right, so yes. Now, again, let's not be overly pessimistic. We don't know that the mayor of New York will be Mamdani. It might not be. It might be somebody running against him in the actual elections, which are in November. But probability is very high right now. Probability is very high. All right. Let's switch gears. I thought it would be a good opportunity today to maybe do a quick assessment of the war, the 12-day war, as Trump would like us to call it. And a few things. So we'll do that. I first want to comment on kind of the back and forth, the constant stories that you're hearing, contradicting stories all the time over did they or didn't they? In other words, did Israel and the U.S. destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities or didn't they? And there are various assessments from various sources, and it really is hard to make sense of it all. And I think part of this is the complexity of it. It's difficult to do intelligence assessments. You don't know what you don't know. You have to realize your limitations of knowledge. You can assess things from aerial photographs and from listening to conversations and from all kind. But unless you have kind of boots on the ground, it's very hard to tell. And a lot of people are trying to speculate without full information. It's also true that our intelligence agencies are often wrong. I would say American intelligence agencies are notoriously wrong. They were wrong about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. They were wrong about the Soviet Union's immense economy during the 1970s that was just going to overtake the United States any day now. And they were wrong, according to Tulsi Gabbard, who said, well, we think they're wrong because we don't know. But when she said that Iran was years away from developing a nuclear weapon. So, I mean, the American intelligence services, certainly, first of all, there are many of them. So you have an analyst at the Pentagon, you have an analyst at the CIA, and you have an analyst at the NSA, and you have analysis. I think there are 12 different intelligence departments, 12 different intelligence agencies in the U.S. So who's saying what? And they probably all disagree, and they probably fight it out. I mean, think about the lab leak and how much disagreement there was among intelligence agencies around that. And of course, that was also silenced. So the fact that they disagree is not surprising. It's a complex question. It's hard to tell. Without boots on the ground, you don't know. And then Trump goes out and says, well, Israel had boots on the ground in Fordo. They went in after the bombing, and they verified that it was completely destroyed. Israel's going like, what is he talking about? Now, that could be very well that they're hiding. We now know, by the way, because the Israeli commander-in-chief of the military said so today, that Israel, and I told you this on day one of the war, this is another one of Iran was right. Basically, today acknowledged the fact that Israel had special forces teams inside Iran. So not just Mossad, but actual soldiers inside Iran. Probably not wearing uniforms, but Israeli soldiers inside Iran. It doesn't surprise me at all. So this is why I thought Israel could take Fordo by itself, because I thought that some of those troops on the ground, and they could probably bring in more, could take that facility. It was very risky, but they could have done it. But Israel had special forces there. Maybe some of those special forces went afterwards into Fordo and discovered that everything was destroyed. Maybe. We on the outside don't know. My guess is that people inside Israeli intelligence have a very, very good idea of Iran's nuclear capabilities right now. They have spies, they have boots on the ground, they have aerial photographs, they have listeners, people who listen in. They've got a very good sense. They don't seem worried. And I'd say Netanyahu has basically staked his political career on that he is responsible for the fact that Iran doesn't have a nuclear program anymore. Now, Israel has also in the past also had either bad intelligence or lied about it. There was a time when they bombed a tunnel in Gaza. This is, before COVID. And then they claimed that, I don't know, several hundred or several dozens Hamas operatives were killed, and they weren't. And I mean, there have been lots of situations like that. Then again, I don't know how much of that is intelligence or how much of that is just plain political lying or covering your ass. Obviously, they had a massive intelligence failure on October 7th. But you look at what happened in Iran in this war, and you go, whoa. Whatever Israeli intelligence has in Iran, they were phenomenal. So I'm willing to extend them the benefit of the doubt that they know what they're talking about. And it seems that they're fairly confident that the Iranian nuclear program has been destroyed or at least pushed back. I think somebody, maybe it was again the head of the military in Israel, said today that it's years. They've put it backwards years. He didn't say destroyed completely, years backwards. This is an assessment. There's an assessment today out from the Institute for Science and International Security. I have no idea if the Institute for Science and International Security know what they're talking about, but they are saying that the U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran have effectively destroyed Iran's enrichment program. The Institute said it would take a long time for Iran to restore its enrichment capabilities to pre-strike levels. They make this assessment based on the destruction of the Natanz nuclear facility and the Fordo and Estefan, all nuclear facilities. And, of course, the killing of 15 or so nuclear scientists. The 6 entry points for the U.S. bunker buster bombs. You can map those out over the facility that was under the ground. Were actually right above the 2 weak points in the in the structure that was underneath. And they really believe that the bombs actually detonated within the facility. If that's the case, the centrifuges are gone. Also, centrifuges, a very delicate machinery. It doesn't take much to destroy them. You don't have to literally implode them. You just have to shake them up enough, and they're pretty non-operable. So their assessment is the bomb blast would have been channeled by the centrifuge cascade halls, sidewalls, which would have destroyed all of the installed centrifuges in the place. I think this is the same assessment that Israel is coming to, and the same assessment as some people within the Trump administration are coming to. Let's see. Now, the IAEA, still is not sure where the uranium that was refined to 60% is. Nobody is admitting to knowing where it is. But if you look at Netanyahu when he's asked that question, he seems to be hinting that he knows where it is. Here's a crazy scenario. Imagine if Israel stole it. Imagine if they stole it. Imagine if they, if the Iranians were thinking they were loading up to trucks thinking that they were going to hide it somewhere in Iran, and it was actually Israeli special forces that hijacked those trucks and took them somewhere. Who knows? We could find those trucks in Azerbaijan, which is a neighbor of Iran's and a ally of Israel. Who knows if the trucks are not there? And I don't know. I'm just 100% speculating here. I can fantasize, but that would be really, really, really cool. But given how cool Israel's operated in this war, nothing would surprise me at this point. On the other hand, again, the Pentagon, this defense intelligence agency, leaked that they think that the airstrikes had only limited impact on the nuclear program. Go figure. So it is hard to tell. Let's see, what else did we want to say before I got to kind of a broader assessment? I don't know what Trump is thinking. As we said yesterday, Trump is no longer talking about regime change, quite the opposite, no regime change. We don't want chaos, as if chaos is something bad, necessarily in an evil country. And also, it's not clear sanctions. Is there a deal? Trump today suggested we don't need a deal. They don't have nuclear weapons. They're never going to have nuclear weapons, so what do we need a deal for? I'm worried about taking away all the sanctions and starting to trade with Iran under the assumption that, there's no problem. They don't have a nuclear program anymore. Disregarding the fact that they are, funding terrorism and attacking U.S. interests and continuing with all that. So who knows? Who knows? I certainly do not know what Trump is actually going to do. Supposedly, the Trump administration is in talks with Iran, and they will be talking in the next couple of weeks to try to arrange some kind of deal. But then Trump said, what deal? Anyway. All right, so let's shift now for a little bit just to talk about overall assessment of what was done here, what was achieved or wasn't achieved. What were the successes and what were the some of the failures of this war? Really, from let's say from an Israeli perspective, an Israeli, I'm assuming, consistent with an American perspective, with an Israeli-American perspective. Look, in many respects, this was a stunning success. Israel basically achieved most of its explicit targets. It appears that it has actually destroyed the nuclear capabilities. They have dramatically reduced the ability of the Iranians to produce, build, and deploy new ballistic missiles. They've destroyed the inventory of ballistic missiles, but they've also destroyed the factories where these missiles, the fuel for the missiles, the engines for the missiles were actually being built. This is a massive project to build the kind of missile system that Iran had built. It's very expensive. It requires a lot of resources, and Israel has destroyed much of that. And they took out basically the entire senior leadership of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. I mean, they're all gone. Whether it's 20, 30, 40, 50 of the brigadier general and above. I mean, it's a stunning number. They've weakened the regime dramatically. They've taken out hundreds of Revolutionary Guard soldiers. They've taken out, symbols of the regime, police stations, headquarters, the Defense Department, the Intelligence Department, all gone. Israel hit overall 50 different cities in Iran. 50 different cities in Iran. All the way from the northeast to the southeast on the Persian Gulf, and dominated and hit pretty much everything in the west. Tehran and to the west, to the north of Tehran, to the south of Tehran, and to the west. They flew 2,000 miles round trip to do this. And they lost exactly 0 manned airplane. 0. I can't remember the number of sorties they flew at. Again, I had that earlier. Can't find it. Anyway, they flew all these sorties. 0 losses. Which is just stunning. Nobody would have predicted that. Nobody could have expected that. Not a single airplane was shot down. They did it in a way that was masterful, brilliant, extraordinary. That reflected deep strategic and tactical planning, capabilities of its pilots, of the tech, the airplanes and all the tech on that airplane, most American, some Israeli original tech. They had refueling airplanes in the air above countries that are enemies of Israel, Iraq and Syria. Not a single one of the refueling planes, these are big, bulky planes, was shut down. There was not a single Israeli military casualty, or for that matter, U.S. military casualty. In 12 days, not a single Israeli soldier was killed. I mean, I don't know of any war in all of human history that by those metrics was as one-sided as this is. They had the capacity to do whatever they wanted up in the skies of Tehran, and in that sense, this is an unbelievable victory. And think of what kind of a victory. Because this has philosophical meaning, if I say so, if you could say so. Real philosophical meaning. Because what does this victory represent? It represents the victory of the mind over mysticism. The mind over the barbarians. The mind over religion. What made possible Israel's success? Thinking, strategy, tech, intelligence, integrating all that knowledge. And then airplanes that represent some of the most advanced technology, i.e. mind, i.e. thinking, that have ever been produced in the world. This is a massive example of the competency of the rational mind, of a free society. And what did they face? They faced an enemy dominated by unfreedom, by mysticism and religion. An enemy that all they could do is build big bombs and lob them blindly into Israeli cities. Think about the precision of threading a missile through a window in a particular bedroom to take out a particular general. Think of the precision by which Israel took out particular buildings in a densely populated city. The precision by which they went after factory after factory after factory after factory and destroyed them. Missile launcher after missile launcher after missile launcher and destroyed them. The precision, the accuracy, the intelligence, the just perfect, close to perfect execution. I mean, it's sad that war, that this is manifest in war. Well, it's not sad that it's manifest. It feels queasy a little bit to get so excited about something that is generated from war, but it is exciting. It's exciting to see the human mind be so efficacious. Human ability. It truly is magnificent. What Israel did is magnificent. It's beautiful. It's a massive success. And again, it's an illustration of the mind versus barbarism, the mind versus the mystical, the mind versus the witch doctor. I mean, Khamenei, with that stupid long beard and, you know, his Islamist dress, you know, there is the witch doctor. He is a witch doctor, supreme leader who communes with Allah. What you have here is a conflict between engineers and witch doctors. Guess who wins that one? Guess who wins that one? Now, what is the consequence of this? And let's put aside here what was done to the nuclear program or not, or whether it's, you know, put back decades or years or months or whatever. The reality is that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard has been thoroughly and systematically humiliated. I'm already seeing stories on Twitter and elsewhere, typical, right? This was a huge mistake. The old guard in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard were moderates, and they were getting ready to recognize Israel maybe and moderate and compromise with America. And now you've got a new leadership of young zealots. I mean, this is BS on steroids. The reality is that whoever takes over the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and there will be a new revolution knows they cannot evade this, that they were thoroughly humiliated, that they cannot match up to Israel, they cannot match up to the United States, that they have nothing. The only negative aspect of that is now they're desperate to get a bomb. That, I think, is true. And that is a risk that Israel will be watching out for, I hope. But the reality is that not only were they humiliated, destroyed, their leadership gone, the nuclear scientists gone, the knowledge, to a large extent, God with them. Remember, I told you that Israel took out the archives of everything they've done in their nuclear program, so the knowledge, to a large extent, is gone. They also know, again, they have to know because it's right staring them in the face, that much of the Iranian population is not with them. Indeed, is against them. Does not support what they're doing. The people who support them are getting old, and the young generation wants something different. And they know that they are at the whim of Israel or the United States, who could take them out whenever they choose to. That Israel showed. They can take them out in their beds. They can take them out in their headquarters. They can take them out. They also know, by the way, that they're thoroughly infiltrated with Israeli spies. That Israel has eyes and ears everywhere. They have no secrets. They cannot hide. I mean, the leadership, and my guess is Khamenei at this point is out. I mean, he's nominally the supreme leader, but the guy's old, weak. He was already weak before this. Nobody trusts him now. He was humiliated. He was completely discredited. Whoever's running Iran right now, and there's probably a lot of fighting going on inside Iran for that leadership. The leadership is torn, is struggling, without a doubt. Also, think about it. Iran is a poor country. Iran is a poor country. In 2000, Iran's GDP was almost 3 times larger than Israel's. I mean, they're 9 times bigger population-wise. And 25 years ago, they were had a bigger GDP than Israel. Israel still had a much higher GDP per capita, much higher per capita. But just in sheer size of their economy, Iran was bigger. They have a lot more people. As I said, 9 times more people than Israel. In 2025, Israel has a significantly higher GDP than Iran, even though it's 1/10 the size in terms of population, 1/100th the size in terms of geography. And oil and gas do not contribute a significant portion to Israel's GDP. They contribute a massive proportion to Iran's GDP. Iran, on a GDP per capita, is a poor country. Israel, on a GDP per capita, is an advanced, wealthy nation. Now, this makes a huge difference. Israel, by the way, if you look at GDP per capita, I don't know if this is adjusted PPP for cost of living and everything, is just about where Sweden is. 2 years ago in 2023, just about where Sweden is, just about where Germany is, a little better than Germany, a little under Sweden. Right? It's a solidly European country. So, where is Iran going to get the funds to build a nuclear program, rebuild it, to build more ballistic missiles? You have to believe its population is restive. It's poor. It's just being crushed militarily by a tiny little speck of a country. The other aspect is nobody came to Iran's defense. In spite of what Magga told you, World War III did not break out because nobody came to Iran's defense. Nobody. They were alone. I mean, Russia's there and China's there, but Russia has no money. And China's not going to spend their money on Iran. And China did not come to defend Iran. And Russia certainly did not come to defend Iran. So they have a horrific economy. Really, a horrific economy. People are poor. People are struggling. Their military is just being set back by, about 20 years. It took them about 20 years to build up that arsenal of mighty, ground-to-ground missiles, ballistic missiles, as well as whatever nuclear program they had built up so far. That is who they are. So where are they going to be rebuild? Where are they going to become this threat? Everybody's afraid, they're going to rebuild the nuclear. I mean, they might, and they might try to buy a nuke, but remember, they can sell oil, their people are hungry, and there is a good chance here, there's a good chance that at some point here, their own people are going to rebel against them. Let me see. Oh, here's the number. So 29 Iranian officers with the rank of brigadier general and higher were killed. We know 15 of their chief nuclear scientists were killed. We don't know exactly how badly the nuclear facilities were damaged, but it's going to take them a long time to get back up to speed. And whatever they do, they now live under the threat of Israel being able to take them out at any point in time. Any point in time. So, and then the next question is, what will the Iranian people do? And I do not know. Will they demand a regime change? Hard to tell. But I do know that Iran right now is the weakest it's been since 1979. Iran right now is less of a threat than has been in a very long time. While the Revolutionary Guard will try to rebuild, it's going to be very difficult for them. And again, they realize now that Israel could take them out at any time. Israel, by the way, I think announced today, somebody in Israel today said, by the way, if you're thinking of becoming a nuclear scientist in Iran, don't do it. If you accept the job, we'll take you out. So they've already been threatened. So we will see how many of them are brave enough. Yeah, a senior Israeli source, any scientist who joins Iran's nuclear program will be eliminated. All right. There you go. All right, let's see. What else do we want to say? As I said, Khamenei is finished. He's out. And here's the other side of this. I mean, Iran launched, 550 ballistic missiles and 1,000 drones against Israel. Now, a number of those missiles, maybe 30 of them actually landed. One drone out of 1,000 landed, a hit. Israel has proved that they have an amazing air defense system. Not 100%, not perfect, but pretty amazing tech. They were helped by American air defense systems, from ships in the area, and from two THAAD batteries, or at least two THAAD batteries in Israel. Again, American and Israeli technology proved that you can defend against ballistic missiles. Now, luckily, none of those missiles were carrying a nuclear warhead. And that's where perfection is important, and it's important to get the missiles, to hit the missiles much earlier, maybe when they launch, rather than when they're about to land. But this is pretty amazing. And what the US and Israel need to do now is continue to perfect these systems and create a true impenetrable barrier to attack. And again, the Russians have nothing like this. As far as we know, the Chinese have nothing like this. This is a huge military advantage that the West now has. Trump, by the way, today at NATO said that he was going to try to get more Patriot batteries into Ukraine to protect against the Russian missiles. It's a real tragedy that they haven't been supplied up until now, and have left Kiev and other cities around Ukraine completely exposed to Russian attack. Now, Israel has the advantage, if you will, for being very small. You can easily defend it. You can relatively easily defend it because it has a small geographic footprint. But yeah, it's still unbelievably impressive. Let's add to this that Hamas is one way or another finished, at least for the next couple of decades. It's gone. Hezbollah is finished. The Lebanese now, I think, have a lot more courage to confront Hezbollah. The fact is that the Lebanese president said, "You will not intervene," and indeed they didn't. While Israel did bomb some Hezbollah targets while they were at it, they had airplanes in the air already. Why not? They did that. So the proxies are gone. Israel is probably, once they finish up in Gaza, Israel will probably be the safest it's been in many decades. Again, as I predicted before, I think this is going to ultimately encourage more Arab countries to sign peace deals with Israel. I'm only saddened by the fact that Trump forced Israel to stop. I think another 2 weeks would have improved the probability of regime change in Iran significantly. I think another 2 weeks would have decimated the Iranian Republican or Revolutionary Guard even more dramatically. I just think another week or two of bombing would have been good, and I think would have. I think the problem is the Saudis and other Arab countries are looking around saying they stopped too early again. They won't finish the job. They cannot be relied upon. I worry about that. So I worry about the impression that leaves with others. But I think Israel has now basically secured itself for a number of decades. Its enemies, whatever enemies are left, have other things to worry about. Again, the Palestinians are still a problem. But the Palestinians have to look at what happened to Iran and say, that's it. We really don't have any allies except at American university campuses. And they don't send us enough money and they can't send us arms. So those students are not that helpful. I mean, you could argue now Israel has basically taken out its enemies on the battlefield. And the battlefield has now moved to European and American cities and universities. That now is the battlefield. But in terms of the actual battlefield, the planes and bombs and killing and all of that, terrorizing, I think it's over for Israel for a while. I think Israel is going to be about as peaceful as it could be. Again, I worry about if Iran doesn't have regime change, what happens in 20 years? I worry about Hamas if it's not thoroughly dismantled, what happens in 20 years? But hey, 20 years of peace is not a bad deal. And Iran is going to have a very, very hard time rebuilding, as I said, for economic reasons and others. Oh, here it is. Israeli Air Force carried out 1,200 sorties with over 600 mid-air refuels and without losing a single fighter jet, or any other jet, for that matter. All right. So there we have it. Hopefully, pressure on Iran will continue, economic pressure, so as it can't get rich, make the money to be able to support any kind of rebuilding. Pressure, which basically says, both from America and Israel, if you start developing another nuclear program, we will take it out at the beginning. We won't wait. We'll take it out right off the bat. Any new facility you build will be destroyed before you have a chance to really completely finish it. And every nuclear scientist you hire will be killed. If Israel can do that, if they can make that a credible threat, then it's bought itself many decades of peace. Iran, as I've said since 9/11, and as Leonard Peikoff has said since the 80s, this is the hub, this is the center, this is the head of the snake, and you've just basically crushed the head of the snake, and it's that snake is now weakened. It could have been weakened more with another week or two. So I'm still upset that Trump declared the ceasefire, but you still have to recognize the good part of what's happened here and how successful this all was. All right. Let's see. Let's do two quick other topics. So NATO. Trump was at NATO. He spent the day there. I think he's left now. I think this is a headline from Politico, and I think it really captures the last day, pretty amazing day from NATO's perspective. This is the headline: How Trump Learned to Stop Worrying and Love NATO. European officials deployed flattery and avoiding specifics to get good vibes and win over the president. I mean, Trump was gushing over NATO, over all these Europeans. I don't know. I think J.D. Vance is going to flip out completely. But it's really amazing. You know, at some point he got asked this question. You saw Marco Rubio really laugh in the background. Supposedly General Mark Rutte from the NATO secretary had called him daddy in reference to the conflict between Iran and Israel. So Trump was asked about this comment, and he said, "Oh, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard." He did it very affectionately. "Daddy, you're my daddy." But more importantly, this is one of the in his press conference. This is one of the things Trump said. I'm quoting from him, and this is fascinating. Just think of this mentality. "I watched the heads of these countries get up, and the love and the passion that they showed for their countries was unbelievable. I've never seen quite anything like it. They want to protect their countries, and they need the United States. And without the United States, it's not going to be the same. It was really moving to see it. It was great. And I left here differently. I left here saying that these people really love their countries. It's not a ripoff. Whoa, that's huge. And we're here to help them protect their countries." I mean, this is truly amazing. Trump has basically confirmed that he will stand by Article 5 of NATO. He is now an enthusiastic supporter of NATO, he says. And what swayed him? The fact that all these leaders really love their countries. Nationalism swayed him. And the fact that they flattered him. They figured it out. They probably thanked him profusely over and over and over and over and over again. They told him how much they need him. They flattered him and they flattered America. And now he loves it. Now he loves it. Just a couple of months ago, J.D. Vance was telling the Europeans how awful they are, how horrible they are, and here's Trump just gushing over them. Wow. I mean, it's pretty amazing. He was very impressed by their willingness to raise the amount of spending that they're going to do to 5% of GDP for defense-related activities. He did slam the Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, and that he's not willing to increase military spending significantly, like every other European nation has committed to doing. This is what he said. It's terrible that Spain has done what Spain has done. He says, "We're negotiating a trade deal, and I will make them pay twice as much." I'm serious about that. So he's going to penalize them through tariffs, although, of course, because Spain is part of the EU, maybe Trump doesn't realize that I don't think he can segregate out Spanish goods for tariffs. Maybe he can, but he's negotiating with the EU, not with Spain. So anyway, we've opened a new era where Trump, at least today, maybe for the next few days, is basically embracing Europe. Europeans were very worried about this NATO summit. They were very worried that Trump would try to water down U.S. security guarantees and commitments towards Europe, and he didn't. He actually did the opposite. He was more, supportive than I think anybody expected. And again, you learn from this is this idea that you got to flatter Trump, you got to play him, that is, if you want to achieve anything, if you want to succeed with him, if you want to get his help, then you got to play the game by his rules, All right, finally, tariffs. Remember July 6th? We're coming up 2 weeks. Is the deadline for reciprocal tariffs, where tariffs could go up to 60, 70% on many countries. Supposedly, we were going to have 100 deals by now, and 90 deals, I guess, and that hasn't happened. So it's hard to tell what exactly happens in 2 weeks. Some people are suggesting Trump might extend this for another 90 days. The Apollo private equity group, their chief economist, is suggesting that maybe what Trump should do is extend the tariffs, extend the 10% tariffs across the board by 12 months to allow negotiations. This will give stability. 10% is something people can handle. I mean, it's basically a 10% increase in taxes on some goods for us. It's not literally 10% of our consumption. It's a lot less because we consume a lot of non-imports. Most of our consumption is non-imports. So it's a small tax increase on Americans. And he gets to have a win because he's raised tariffs. And he gets to go negotiate and figure out what else he wants to do. And it doesn't hurt the economy because it's only 10% and it's a relatively small tax. And it kind of works, I guess. So that is a possibility. It's a possibility that's what Trump will do, is he will extend the 10% tariffs, not do reciprocal tariffs, walk away from the crazy high tariffs. And we will have the 30% tariffs on China, 10% tariffs on the rest of the world. And our economy, it doesn't help the economy. It hurts the economy, but it doesn't hurt it that much. It's not a disaster. It's not going to plunge us into recession. If he does that, the Fed probably lowers interest rates and it's over. I mean, the Fed is now saying they're not lowering interest rates because of the uncertainty about tariffs that Trump has created. Trump could get rid of the uncertainty and without giving up on his idea of reciprocal tariffs, by extending this for a year. That is one proposal, but it'll be interesting to see what he actually does in 2 weeks. Probably something crazy, but we will wait and we will see. All right. I have not put up the video for our new sponsor yet. But I will put it up tonight, and I'll comment on it tomorrow. So a new video will go up tonight about our sponsor, and then we will talk about it. We will talk about it tomorrow. But we do have Alex Epstein is our sponsor. He is the author of a Substack, a blog, usually focused on talking points, but also just general information, but also talking points and how to convince people about. His agenda, and the agenda primarily is focused on issues around environmentalism and around energy and around fossil fuels and the importance of fossil fuels and about a energy grid. It's alexepstein.substack.com. You won't find better information, and thinking and better points to communicate. If you want to argue with people, debate people, communicate with people, he will provide you with some of the best talking points that there are to make your argument more persuasive. In addition, we have the Ayn Rand Institute. The Ayn Rand Institute has OCON next week, and OCON is in Boston this year. If you can't come live, and I don't think you can register for being there in person, you can register to watch everything live online. And to do that, you could go to aynrand.org, aynrand.org/start here. And there you will find a way to sign up for for virtual OCON. And you can get a 10% discount by putting in 25 YBS 10. 25 YBS 10. So those are sponsors. Now, if you would like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of different ways. One, the easiest way to do it is just to like the show. Liking, because that helps the algorithm and gets more exposure and we get more subscribers. You should also, by the way, subscribe to the show. If you're not a subscriber yet, please press the subscribe button and get regular announcements about when my shows goes live, when some of the shorts that we may go live that might be of interest, when new stuff happens. Some of my lectures, my talks are put online, and you can find out about those by subscribing, and then you'll be on the list, I guess, of announcements. And then if you want to support the show on a regular basis beyond subscribing and liking, you can go to patreon.com, put Yaron Brook Show, and become a monthly supporter. And I love monthly supporters because it's steady, regular support, and that is predictable. This is a show I get some money from some of the sponsors, but basically this is a show that exists because of support from people like you, from listeners, from people who watch. Every one of these videos is watched by anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people, and then the podcast is listened to by several thousand people as well. Those are the people who make this show possible, right? And because many of them then make a contribution to the show. If you haven't made a contribution to the show, then you should, because that's a trade, right? You get a value from me by listening to the show. Return that value by providing some financial support. And that is, you can do it on Patreon, or, of course, you can do it right here if you're watching live. If you're on Twitter, come on over to YouTube so you can do us. And you can do a sticker, or you can do a super chat. You can ask a question about anything, literally anything. Or you can just make a statement. You can insult me. You can do whatever you want. I will read it because there's dollars attached to it. So please come over. Those of you on YouTube, please participate and help this show continue to grow. Thank you, guys. All right, let's jump in with Super Chat. We're $200 short of our second hour goal, and we are in the second hour. We've got 40 minutes to make up the $200, so please consider doing something, even $2. Everything helps. Everything helps for us to get there. Those of you who can do $50 or $100, that just makes it much quicker to get to the goal. Thank you, guys. Let me thank the stickers, and then I promise we'll go straight to questions. Enric, thank you. Steve, thank you. Marilyn, thank you. William and Roland, thank you. And Philosophkins, something like that, thank you. And Margaret and Jonathan and Raphael, thank you, guys. Really appreciate the support. Yeah, Raphael, we should talk. I'm going to be in Lisbon soon, right? Beginning of September. Catherine just came in with some euros in support of the Yaron Brook Show. So thank you, Catherine, for the sticker. All right, let's start with Rational IP. 60 euro. Thank you, Rational IP. Makes a massive difference and a big dent in our in the goal. Rational IP says, in Belgium, doctors plan to go on strike following the health minister's plan to implement a maximum cap on health supplements and fees. Reminds me of a novel I like. Yeah, it's very reminiscent of Atlas Shrugged. But yeah, look, socialized medicine is very susceptible to strikes that basically cripple the entire healthcare system because all the doctors have one employer. I mean, it depends on the specifics of the socialized medicine plan, but it sounds like Belgium is one of these, right? Where, in sense, the employer, the entity that decides how much the doctors will get paid is the government. So if they want to go on strike, they go on strike against the government. And so they, so they just, can you imagine all doctors going on strike? They don't. I remember, this is a long, long time ago, that in Israel, my father was a doctor, and the doctors went on strike. And they literally, because if there's an emergency, the Hippocratic Oath demands that they treat the person. So they basically, this is before cell phones existed. They got on buses, and they were taken to undisclosed locations so that nobody could call them to say there's an emergency, you have to treat this patient. So they literally disappeared for a few days. And people died because they didn't get medical treatment for doctors. And in many countries, there are nurses' strikes where the same thing happens. They just disappear. They go away. I mean, this is what socialized medicine looks like. This is the real part of the many evils of socialized medicine. A bureaucrat gets to decide how much money you make. You don't get to offer your productive skill in the marketplace and let it be priced. A bureaucrat makes that decision for you. All right. Andy, lived in New York City since I moved to 2000. Pretty depressed about the election, even though I long since planned a move to Texas, seeing a trend here. give me a silver lining and tell me New York City will come out okay in the end. Well, first, it's not obvious that he will be the mayor. We'll have to wait till November to find out. Second, it's not clear how he governs. I mean, once he gets into the place, he will discover an entire bureaucracy dedicated to making a lot of his plans just not very easily doable. Pressure groups who will pull in a variety of different directions. The infrastructure of City Hall is not built for radical change. He will have to fight it. I mean, de Blasio is mayor, and New York survived him. Now, this guy's worse than de Blasio, but I would guess that New York will survive this guy as well. But it's definitely bad. It's definitely moving in the wrong direction. And the most depressing part of this is just how many people voted for him. How many people were looking to overlook how evil this guy really is and vote for him. How much damage he can do, we will see. We will see. Now, him and what was his name? The district attorney in New York, who's a horrible leftist, don't care about crime type guy. Bragg. It's Bragg, right? If he and Bragg serve together, crime in New York will go up significantly. That will be a really tragic occurrence. Adams was not bad on crime. Not bad generally, just corrupt, but not bad. So it's going to be interesting to see if he and Bragg serve together. Maybe New Yorkers are sick of Bragg and they'll flip it. They'll put somebody tough on crime in that position, and they'll put this guy in the mayor, and crime won't change that badly. We can hope. We can hope. Michael, anti-Semitism must be studied as a serious mental illness. A hatred of so irrational, so obsessive, and so resistant to facts and history should no longer be treated as mere prejudice and should be diagnosed. I really disagree, Michael. I think it's a massive mistake to associate bad, evil ideas with psychological problems. It gives people an out. Here, take a drug and you won't become an anti-Semite. No, anti-Semitism is an evil ideology. It's a set of beliefs that people hold. It's not because they're mentally ill. It's because of the ideas that they have. It's because they're incapable of thinking. The antidote to this is not getting a better psychology. The antidote to this is learning logic and becoming reasonable and rejecting evasion. No psychological treatment will help you with that. Anti-Semitism, started with the presentation of facts. Those facts had to do with the fact that the Jews were exposed to Jesus and yet did not follow him. That is about as evil as it gets. They don't have the excuse of ignorance. And that the Jews egged the Romans on to crucify him. So they're the ones who killed Jesus. Those are the facts. That's how it started. I mean, those are not real facts, but those are the facts that's presented by the New Testament and by the fathers of the church. And since then, it's just downhill. It's superstition, mysticism, irrationality, reverts to conspiracy theories, and conspiracy theories look for other to blame. Jews are a convenient other to go after. It has to be diagnosed not as a mental illness, but as a symptom of mysticism, as a symptom of the irrational. And irrationality has to be combated. And you don't do that through psychiatry or psychology. You do that through philosophy. Liam, are most businessmen today not even close to Ayn Rand heroes like Trump? They don't have a lot of substance. They have a specific talent in a given field outside of their industry. Superficial narcissism is the default. Well, no, I don't think that's true. I mean, I think there's a spectrum. there are businessmen who are very close to Ayn Rand's heroes, and then there are businessmen close to Trump, and there's everything in between. There are people who are really good and have some elements of narcissism. There are people who have very little narcissism and are very good. There are people who got lucky. There are all kinds of, and I think it's very dangerous and unhealthy, unhelpful to try to paint all businessmen as the same. So, Trump is one manifestation. Steve Jobs was another. But what is Elon Musk? Is he what is he? And what is Peter Thiel? Philosophically corrupt, but pretty good investor, pretty good businessman. So, and then there are the people who are CEOs today of Google and Microsoft and the other big five, and is Tim Cook at Apple? Is he a narcissist? There's nothing to suggest that. But is he an Ayn Rand hero? Nothing really to suggest that. He's a brilliant businessman. He's really, really good at what he does, and he works hard, and he's a huge wealth and value creator. Give him credit for that. And so there's a wide variety of people, and don't try to, and again, I always focus when it comes to business on the business and how good are they being at creating value. And look, there's nothing in all of human history comparable to what American businessmen have done over the last 150 years. Even today's businessmen are still creating enormous amounts of wealth. Enormous amounts of wealth. And so don't put that down. Don't look down on that. It's unhealthy. All right. Let's see. Don't forget, if you're not a subscriber, to click that subscribe button. And if you're on Twitter, come over to YouTube and press the subscribe button so we can get the subscription number up. We're shooting for 40,000 ASAP by end of summer. 40,000. All right. Not your average algorithm. Will Trump get impeached or be asked to step down because he's losing his mental faculties? It looks like he is losing it. The unhinged tantrum, the hate and rage are oozing out of him. I don't know where you guys live that you think that anybody would dare impeach Trump. Republicans would impeach Trump? It ain't happening. He might be if the Democrats take the House, they might try to impeach him, but then the Senate won't go along with it. You need a supermajority in the Senate. There's just no way in hell that Trump is going to be impeached or asked to step down unless he has a stroke or something dramatic happens. The fact that he's unhinged is something I think that MAGA loves. His supporters love. And certainly nobody in Congress has the balls, the courage to call him unhinged and to go after him. It's just not going to happen. Liam, is there any evidence pro-Western coalitions are forming in Iran to overthrow the regime, or do they not believe the Ayatollah is weak enough to topple from within? I think they struggle. I think the challenge is not whether he's weak or not. The challenge is that there are armed people in the streets who are willing to shoot demonstrators and are willing to imprison, torture, kill anybody suspected with trying to organize against the Shah, against the regime. So the challenge is, how do you organize a movement to overthrow the regime with no weapons, and the regime still having the support of militants, heavily armed militants? So it can happen quickly, and it's very hard to communicate. They don't have easy internet access. They're afraid to communicate within each other. So I'm sure there's some pro-Western coalitions forming, but can they do anything? Can they rally the masses? To actually depose this, you need masses. You need hundreds of thousands of people to go out into the streets. And if they're going to get shot, are there enough people willing to do that? I just don't know. I don't know enough about the inside of Iran. Right now, The answer is no. But will that develop in the days, weeks, months to come? As how weak they are becomes real, how weak the regime is becomes more real. Dave, I'm pretty certain Mamdani won't win the general election, and at least this shows Jews don't control everything. Since they can't keep an open anti-Semitic out of the most Jewish city in America. Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure what that helps exactly. It's not like people actually pay attention to facts, people who think Jews control everything. I hope you're right about Mamdani not winning. Rock, does today's political system incentivize voting blocs to fight over other people's earnings just to avoid being ones who get looted instead? Yes, absolutely. Ayn Rand talked about this many times, that what a mixed economy does is creates pressure groups to squeeze favors from the government at other people's expenses, and then pressure groups to try to prevent them being squeezed, to squeeze somebody else instead. That everybody's, there's a pie to be divided. The state views your wealth as its pie, and there's a pie to be divided. And what happens is you get multiple pressure groups forming blocks, as you call them, to try to preserve their piece of the pie, grab somebody else's piece of the pie at the same time. And there are hundreds of these blocks. And that's exactly how politics works today. It's just look at the big, beautiful bill and look how the negotiations are going. And you can see the different pressure groups fighting over the crumbs. I mean, crumbs that we produced, we created, we built, crumbs that belong to us. Esoteric dichotomy. Hi, Yaron. Does New York City, America need to touch the hot stove of socialism and get burnt as a learning experience of what would not work? Thoughts? No, I mean, I don't think people learn from experience. I say this over and over again. No, no, no. Why can't we touch the hot stove of Venezuela or the Soviet Union or everything else? No, people do not learn from experience. Or what about San Francisco? That was run by a bunch of leftists. Look what happened there. In San Francisco, they seem to have learned the lesson, but not in New York. How far does it have to be? No, people don't learn from experience. They're motivated by moral ideals. And unless we can change the moral ideals, this is what happens. Socialism will only grow, only get stronger, even in America, of all places, even in America. All right, guys, remember, value for value. We are still about $150 short of our second hour goal. So please consider supporting the Yaron Brook Show with a sticker or a question or a super chat question, particularly if you can afford and think it worthy to do something over $20 that will help us get there much, much faster. James, unimaginable to think the next mayor of the Center of Finance and Skyscrapers is an unapologetic socialist and defender of Hamas. Rest in peace, New York. Universities did a phenomenal job. Yeah, they did. That's where the battle is. It's in the universities, and it's not in touching a stove. It's changing what is being taught. It's changing the moral framework from which people see the world. Hopper Campbell, Trump is not the president. Stephen Milley is, and he is the most hateful anti-American functionary in the history of this country. Well, again, I don't think he's the president, but he certainly has a lot of influence, and I agree with you about how hateful he actually is. And I don't know if he's the worst in all of American history. The more I read about American history, the more you discover pretty bad, hateful people in its history. But he is, certainly in modern times, one of the worst. Just horrible, horrible human being. Clark Young, last time Trump was president, all the big liberal cities selected far-left mayors. Is this their way of spitting Trump? Trump brings out the worst in the left and the right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. But again, these are kind of the tactical, momentary things, but the strategic, overwhelming, you have to think of the reason why this is happening, and that is philosophical. That is Harvard and Columbia and all the universities teaching these kids how horrible capitalism is, how horrible the West is, how horrible the Enlightenment was, and by default, how wonderful socialism is. Spiting Trump, not spitting Trump, spiting Trump, I see. Yeah. I mean, there's something to that, but again, I think it's much more fundamental and therefore much harder to deal with. Trump goes away. It's not like socialism in New York City goes away. Clark Young, will hard left mayors have the balls to stand up to ICE and stop these Gestapo roundups and deportations? To the extent that they can, they might try, but it hasn't worked out that well in LA. I haven't seen anybody stand up, so no. So I haven't seen it done. ISIS is really obnoxious and really committed and really horrific, and I haven't seen them slow down anyway, really, except maybe with certain businesses who complain to Trump directly. Only Trump can slow ICE down. We'll talk about ICE more in a future show. I mean, it continues to be really, really horrific what is happening with them. Esoteric dichotomy. Kids are taught sharing is caring, which praises redistribution rather than rational exchange. Being productive is far more caring and valuable. Yeah, absolutely. I've been complaining about the sharing with kids forever. It's inculcating a form of socialism when they're very young and in a kind of a friendly, supposedly benevolent way, and it's very unhealthy. Michael, how could a psychiatrist even treat Trump? He is the ultimate second-handed. Does therapy not work when someone has no soul? Yeah, a lot of the time therapy doesn't work. I mean, how many people does therapy actually work on? Therapy requires honesty. It requires introspection. It requires wanting to improve. It requires believing one needs to improve. And it requires a real, an inquisitive mind. And otherwise, it's a waste of money. And for most people, it is a waste of money because they're not doing that. Someone has a soul or at least a willingness to reshape his soul, a real commitment to doing that. That's hard. J.J. Jigby's late, ultimate, untimely comment, but interested to note that Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, circumvented Congress and sent the Navy out to fight the Barbary pirates at Tripoli and ultimately defeated them. I didn't know he circumvented Congress. I'll have to look that up. I thought he got congressional approval for that. But that was good that it was done. Hopefully it was done constitutionally. John, why do you call people on the right racist, stupid liars, etc. all the time? If you aren't a leftist, you sound like one. Can you improve your vocabulary? No, not really. I mean, I have a very limited vocabulary. That is a fact. If you listen to the show long enough, you will discover that. I notice, John, you don't get upset when I call the left crazy, suicidal, horrible, evil, bad. I have a limited vocabulary when I attack the left as well. And isn't it interesting that I attack the left, I attack the socialist, a big part of the show, and I attack the right, and yet people like John, who obviously can't actually grasp somebody being against both groups, then it says I sound like a leftist. But a leftist doesn't attack socialism. A leftist doesn't attack the crazy, insane woke. But the reason I call the right, and I don't call all the right, I call the crazy right, the far right, just like I call the crazy left, the far left. I call the crazy right, the new right, the alt-right, racist, stupid liars, is because they are racist, stupid liars. Tucker Carlson is a racist, stupid liar. Candace Owen is a racist, stupid liar. Matt Walsh, who blamed the victory of socialism in New York City on immigrants, is a racist, stupid liar. I mean, that's just what they are. Now, maybe they're not technically liars because they've convinced themselves of the lie. They're just delusional or evasive. But that's what they are. Now, one of the things that I think appeals to people in my talks and on the show is that I'm plain spoken. I do not use complicated words to show off my extensive vocabulary, which I don't have, and to soft pedal my actual beliefs. If somebody is a racist, stupid liar, I call them a racist, stupid liar. I don't call them. I can't even think of a more sophisticated way to do it, where it is more, where you can hedge yourself. I don't hedge. I call the good and evil. And I call the left evil and I call the right evil. And you can't handle it, John. You've been listening to this show for months, years, I don't know, and you can't handle it. God forbid you attack the right, cherished right. But I call things the way they are. I call a spade a spade. It's, I think, one of the reasons people listen to my show. If they wanted to listen to a vocabulary, they would listen to reruns of William F. Buckley's shows, where that pompous ass would use the most sophisticated words, forcing people to run to the dictionary to know what the hell he was talking about. I'm the opposite of that. And yeah, anyway. Paul, let's not forget they destroyed the Ring of Fire, 7-front war. The Israeli and Israel will never let that be reestablished. Let's hope you're right. But yes, they've destroyed them all. And Syria's fallen, and we can hope that ultimately Syria becomes a more moderate country ruled by more moderate forces, and that ultimately, imagine if Israel has peace with Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. I mean, amazing. And again, this is true, unequivocal peace through strength. None of these countries, none of the peoples in these countries like Israel. None of them like Jews in particular. But they respect strength. They don't mess with Israel after what Israel just did in Iran. And that could lead to peace. Jason just wrote, here's $10 for the great answer to a schmucky question. Yeah, John does a lot of schmucky questions. There are a couple of people here who ask, I mean, at least they put their dollars where they at least contribute, right? They're not free riders in that sense. But there are a few people whose questions are always tinged with hostility. And John Davis is definitely one of those people. If World War II, this is Michael, if World War II ended in a ceasefire, who thinks we would be better off? Well, yeah, I mean, it would have been a disaster. It was unconditional victory. It needed to be unconditional victory. Luckily for us, Iran never gained the kind of military strength that the Nazis did, never posed the threat that Germany did. And therefore, I think we can live with this, even though it's far from ideal. Unconditional surrender is what needed to happen. Yeah. Will Brennan, I understand the morality of capitalism and individual rights, but am very uneducated on economics in general. Where do you recommend I start? Which of your books should I read? Love the show. I would start, if you're unfamiliar with economics, I would start with Economics in One Lesson. Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. You could also get some Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics. I disagree with stuff in there, but it's a good foundation. It's a good start. Ultimately, the best books on economics are von Mises's books, Human Action, and he's got a book on socialism, and he's got a book on money and on the origins of money. But I would start with Economics in One Lesson, maybe Thomas Sowell. There's a few others out there that are pretty good in terms of getting you started in economics. In terms of my books, there aren't that many, so you might as well read them all. Free Market Revolution, Equal is Unfair, and The Morality of Finance. But certainly, Free Market Revolution is the most economic of all of them. But there's a lot of economic history in Equal is Unfair as well. Hey, good luck on the path. I mean, there's a lot of, if you look under Austrian economics, there's a bunch of good econ books there. Just don't pay attention to when they deviate from economics. This is true of Mises as well. When they go off on praxeology, or if they go off on the moral relativism, or on anarchy, or any of these, just stick to the actual economics of it. Jennifer, thank you. She says, here's for telling the plain truth. I appreciate that. Thank you. Now, it is true that maybe if I had a wider vocabulary and I whitewashed things and I was a little bit more compromising and a little bit more subtle and a bit more, I don't know, nice, then maybe I'd have a bigger following. Maybe I could be Ben Shapiro and I'd have millions of people and I'd be super rich. Maybe that's possible. But hey, if you believe that, if you're here because it's just you love the plain speaking, you love the plain truth without any of that, wishy-washy nonsense, and if you support my limited vocabulary, then do a sticker, like 99 cents. Do a sticker just for the fun of it. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer just did $20. You guys can do 99 cents or a couple of bucks or something. In the thing, if you want to convey that you if you do not want me to become a Ben Shapiro, jump in with a sticker, any amount that you want, but just that would be a good indication of support for a plain spoken immigrant to this beautiful, amazing country. All right. Blaze guitar lessons. Thought of Mike Lee's public land sell-off. I talked about that like the day before yesterday and yesterday. I talked about it twice. There is Islam Ali is all in on plain spoken, limited vocabulary. Thank you, Islam Ali. I spoke about that. I mean, the only problem I have with Mike Lee's proposal is it's too moderate. He proposes selling up 0.5 to 0.7% of federal government-owned land. I would like it to be a lot closer to 100%. So I would like to be a lot bigger. But look at the what do we call the people on the right? Here it is: racist, stupid lies. I mean, notice how the right, many of whom are racist, stupid liars, how they jumped on his proposal. This is the right who are supposed to be pro property rights, pro markets, pro kind of getting rid of government control. They just jumped all over him and, basically forced him to withdraw his proposal. And he's going to make a much, much more limited, narrow proposal. In addition, the Senate rules, parliamentarian, said that it couldn't be a part of the reconciliation bill. So it's basically off the table. But just imagine if if people on the right actually believed in markets, just had a little bit of a semblance of capitalism. This should have been one of the most important, and it is. The idea of selling federal land is one of the best ideas possible. And, imagine if you sold up big chunks of federal land and used that money to pay off the debt, to reduce the deficit. I mean, you could raise a lot of money for selling off the land. So particularly part of the land. So it's crazy. The people, he got attacked. And he got attacked from the right. The left you expect. The environmentalists went nuts. You expect that. But from the right he got attacked. All right. Again, Jerry Morton, thank you for supporting my plain speaking. Esoteric Dichotomy, thank you. Mary Aline, thank you. Eddie P, thank you. Thank you, guys, just do a little sticker, just to show, maybe not a lot of you want me to be plain spoken. I don't know. Maybe a lot of you agree with John. Probably not. All right, Richard. Do not become Ben Shapiro. There's plenty of veiled religious sources, and you'll strain your voice. Does he yell more than I do? Does he? I do pretty raise my voice. So, all right. I will. Don't worry. I will never become Ben Shapiro. The day you see me wearing yarmulke is a day where, yeah, it ain't happening. So don't worry. Yeah, it ain't happening. I am what I am. I'm not changing. Ollie, why are men often poor at small talk compared to women? Oh, God. Any woman want to chime in here? I think because, men, generally... Okay, so small talk generally is a expression of, more emotional connection. It's a willingness to communicate and create some rapport with another person in order to create an emotional connection or to build on an emotional connection. I think men, because of our educational system, are just very bad at that. We view it as a sign of weakness. Expressing emotions, being more vulnerable, talking about things that are not important. Men are just not taught, educated, and I don't know if there's anything biological, but to be that way, right? So they're much more repressed emotionally. And that means that they don't, small talk is, I think, more open and more revealing than important stuff. I don't think it's redundant. I think it's a way you get to know somebody. And it's just a way to start a conversation and to get insight into, not into their philosophy, but maybe into their sense of life. Yeah, so I think that's, I think it has to do with emotional repression for men. I'm not against small talk in a sense of just as a means to get into a conversation with people you don't know that well. Paul, what does Peacock think of what happened to Iran? If you don't know, can you find out and tell us? No, I don't know, and I haven't talked to Peacock in a long time, and probably not going to be speaking to him anytime soon. I can guess that he was, happy with what Israel did, happy with what Trump did when he bombed the nuclear thing, and super upset and disappointed when a ceasefire was called. I mean, that is the Peacock I know. Right, that would be his position, but I'm not speaking for him because I don't know that was his position. But and of course, yeah, I mean, the fact that it was stopped must be very disappointing to him. He would have wanted regime change unequivocally. Mary Aline, every tree is sacred. That is so mystical and idiotic. Now, don't say mystical and idiotic when you're criticizing, is it the left? I guess it's the left with the tree is sacred, because that's a very limited vocabulary. You have to find more sophisticated ways to criticize people. Not everybody idiotic. We overuse that word. And mystical, I mean, God, how many times did I say mystical today in criticizing Iran? It's just not fair for me to constantly use the word mystical in describing the Iranians. I need to find a more sophisticated word to something from an expanded vocabulary set to actually describe the Iranian regime. Druids, Jason suggests. Thank you, Mary Aline. Absolutely. All right, guys. I think that is it. That was the last question. we hit our 2-hour mark just as we got the last question. So thank you. Let's see. Tomorrow is Thursday. Yeah, tomorrow we're going to have the show at the same time. I use theocratic. I've said theocratic, mystical, theocratic. It's all this, yeah. Theocratic is within my wheelhouse. It's within my vocabulary. But nobody cares about what words I use to go after Islam, and they don't care about what words I use to go after the left. They only care about what words I use to go after the right. That is what you're not supposed to criticize. That is not, you're not supposed to insult, even though they deserve it. I mean, the problem with the left is, one of the problems with the left is many problems with the left, but one of the problems with the left is too many of them are not willing to call some people on the right racist, idiot, liars. I mean, if they were, I think we'd have a little bit more sanity. The problem is that the right these people on the right get away with way too much of what they say and what they do without being called out for how evil it really is. That's my job in life, to call them out on it. All right, guys, tomorrow, 3 p.m. East Coast time, we will continue. I'm sure there'll be more news. By then, don't know what we'll learn from now until then, but I'm sure there'll be something for us to talk about. Maybe I'll look for some more positive news. Lots of stuff about Milei is very positive. Although I don't have a lot of words to describe Milei other than the few positive words that I have. So I'll look up some other synonyms for positive expressions towards Milei. Paul is going to send me a thesaurus. Just send me a link, right? All right. Yeah, I mean, the left are racist. First of all, the left needs to call themselves racist. So their problem is they're not calling enough people racist because they need to be able to call themselves racist, particularly the people to their left, the wacky left, are clearly racist. And then they need to call out some of these people on the right as racist when they are. Maybe they call them out racist, but they don't use the idiot liar part enough. I'm not sure. I don't know. Don't hold me to that statement. Maybe it's inaccurate. Maybe the left does enough on the race card at least. I'm not sure it does enough on the idiotic card, but maybe they do. All right, Ann confirms that the left is doing it, so not to worry. So okay, I'm less worried now. All right, guys, I will see you soon tomorrow, 3 p.m. East Coast time. Have a great rest of your Wednesday and a great rest of your week. Bye, everybody.